So it's not just your imagination. They know that we know that they're lying to us. They know that we know more than ever before, and they know that the quality of the lies are going down. Have a look at this. Trust in media at new low of 28% in US. Well, I mean, obviously you have to believe their polls in order to believe this, but the point is that this is them letting us know that they know that we know. Americans' confidence in mass media has edged down to a new low, with just 28% expressing a great deal or fair amount of trust in newspapers, television, and radio to report the news fully, accurately, and fairly. This is down from 31% last year and 40% 5 years ago. Of course, you went over the smoking 5 years ago, but yeah, it's been a steady thing every year, and they're marveling at how, oh, the media is trusted even less than used car salesmen and Congress people. Ooh, that's really bad, and that is pretty bad. I mean, at least used car salespeople sell a product that people actually need, which is used cars. Nobody needs bullshit. And that's our only export as a nation. And that's deliberate. I mean, when you really want to degrade a nation, make them feel like the most useless entity in the room, and this useless entity just happens to have hundreds of military bases plunked down right in your resource-rich areas. And as citizens of this parasitic country, you're left to just feel like, ew, like, why is my country doing this shit in my name? And that shame is a little nugget on which they can build a edifice of extreme humiliation. Media trust at record low among all party groups. Well, that's one thing we can all agree on, is that they're lying to us. Now, this you might think, okay, well, this is a win. This is something we can work with. Yes and no. I mean, yes, that they're admitting that we all know we're being lied to, and that we all are very confident, more confident than usual that we're being lied to. But they also want to rub our faces in it, because being humiliated on this massive scale sort of lowers our frequency of consciousness to a level that makes us much more easy to manipulate. And they know that, and it's something that they rejoice in. So. So what do you get? The organized crime ring masquerading as a country, masquerading as a religion. That has everything. Carte blanche to commit the first and only live stream genocide of the modern age, the complete unwavering fealty of the entire US Congress, and the purchased at heavy cost devotion of most influential political commentators in the English-speaking world. Why, you get them better quality human sacrifices is what you get them. At least that seems to be the orders that Pete Hegseth was given. Okay, so imagine you're like the toughest person in the military, and like you're the guy they would call when they need to dispose of a terrorist who's outlived his usefulness. And you're summoned to a military summit by Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump to give you a pep talk on the warrior ethos. And instead of some sort of rousing call to arms or call to not arms, as the case may be, you get this.
Either you protect your people and your sovereignty, or you will be subservient to something or someone.
At no point in this talk does he explain who that someone is that they're already subservient to. But he does go on to personally insult each and every one of them by calling them fat and poorly groomed.
It all starts with physical fitness and appearance. If the Secretary of War can do regular, hard PT, so can every member of our joint force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. This also means grooming standards. No more beards, long hair, superficial individual expression. We're gonna cut our hair.
Wait, superficial individual expression? This is awfully rich coming from a guy who claims to have left the National Guard because they didn't like his tattoos. Seriously, I'm not making that up. At least I got it from his Wikipedia, but his Wikipedia was sourced to his own book. So unless he's lying about that, and I don't know why you would claim something like that, because it doesn't make you look good. I mean, being such a petty little bitch that you like swear an oath to defend the United States from enemies, foreign and domestic, and then they're like, well, you can't do this detail because you have a goofy looking shit on your arm. And he's like, oh, I'm gonna take my ball and go home. Okay, well, I mean, probably you wouldn't do that great in a war either, but you're taking orders from a guy who looks like that. And this is very deliberate. I mean, he's making fun of like fat troops or poorly groomed troops, quote unquote, while he and then Trump himself, who is a very large man, gets up and lectures these people. So what is it like? He's literally telling people to their faces that Israel demands better quality human sacrifices. It's bad enough that you've already thrown your life away for what you thought was serving the United States, and it turns out to be serving Tel Aviv. But instead, now you've got to listen to this guy talk shit to you. It's more than just like he's covered in tattoos.
Broken windows theory.
He's literally doing bird hands. Dude is doing bird hands. This is what you do when you're. It's the internet equivalent of crying out in pain as they strike you. He is doing bird hands. And I'm going to play that again because that's like the most important things he says here. He's blaming you for losing the war by having bad grooming.
We're going to cut our hair, shave our beards, and adhere to standards. Because it's like the broken windows theory of police. It's like when you let the small stuff go, the big stuff eventually goes. So you have to address the small stuff.
He's literally blaming bearded military generals for losing wars.
This is on duty in the field and in the rear. If you want a beard, you can join special forces. If not, then shave. We don't have a military full of Nordic pagans.
Maybe you should.
And that's why today, at my direction, the era of unprofessional appearance is over. No more beardos. The era of rampant and ridiculous shaving profiles.
We can't win wars, but goddammit, we're gonna look good losing. Like this is not a small part of his this whole thing about superficial individual expression that supposedly made him leave the National Guard. Apparently, that was a major formative incident because like he fully blames people with beards and fat asses for losing wars. You can tell he knows what he's doing because he's laughing nervously as at his own jokes as he basically tells an entire room full of some of the toughest people in the Western Hemisphere that they're fat. I mean, you got to imagine that the dudes were just sitting there in the audience, like really wanting to wrap their hands around this little pipsqueak's throat. And he goes on like this for quite a while, as well as redefining a bunch of words because, like, this is Orwell's nightmare, and it wouldn't be Orwell's nightmare if we didn't have some war is peace pageantry here.
Simply put, if you do not meet the male level physical standards for combat positions, cannot pass a PT test, or don't want to shave and look professional, it's time for a new position or a new profession.
You have self-respect and don't want to listen to me talk to you like this? Get the fuck out. This is the kind of guy who tries to show off on his Fox News show and ends up kicking himself in the crotch with a skateboard. Ooh, that never gets old. I mean, everybody in the audience is sitting there and taking it from this schmuck, and that's deliberate. I have a feeling that most of the dudes in that audience can probably do a basic workout routine. The ones that can't, I mean, it's not their fault we're losing war. It's the fault of we're fighting the wars in the first place that don't need to be fought. But of course, he doesn't mention that throughout the entire talk. And I mean, he really lays it all out in terms of like, your lives are not your own. He says the next war is going to be boundaryless and endless.
It means that everyone, regardless of MOS, is proficient enough to engage an enemy threat at sea, in the air, or in a so-called rear area. We
So-called.
need to ensure that every member of our uniformed military maintains baseline proficiency in basic combat skills, especially because the next war, like the last, will likely not have a rear area.
Hmm. What's that? You said the next war will likely not have a rear area? You mean there will be no fronts? It won't be like Israel's eight front war. It'll just be a war, a 360-degree war, aka the opposite of what this War Department is supposed to give us, peace through strength. I guess we're not too strong, so we're not going to be very peaceful either.
Finally, as President Trump rightly pointed out when he changed the department name, the United States has not won a major theater war since the name was changed to the Department of Defense in 1947. They said never again to mission creep or nebulous end states. The same holds true today. Our civilian and military leadership is chock full of veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan who say never again to nation building and nebulous end states. This clear-eyed view, all the way in the White House, combined with President Trump's military buildup, postures us for future victories if, and we will, and when we embrace the War Department. And we must.
this is all happening at the same time the US is sending huge volumes of military armaments over to the Middle East right now. So it's like nebulous end states, nation building. What? I mean, does Trump wants to take over Gaza and put a bunch of fucking golf courses there? I mean, and he goes back into this whole like, if you don't like it, get the fuck out of my house thing, even though it's like not his house and he's like a one of the most unqualified custodians thereof in the history of unqualified custodians thereof. Like he tries to micromanage people's online behavior, like telling them, don't be posting, don't be shit posting. It's conduct unbecoming of a warrior. What about information warfare, dude? Information warfare is literally shit posting. So I don't know. Do they not have an information warfare division anymore? Did they outsource that to Israel too?
This includes as well the behavior of our troops online. To that end, I want to thank and recognize the services for their new proactive social media policies. Use them. Anonymous, online, or keyboard complaining is not worthy of a warrior. It's cowardice masquerading as conscience. Anonymous, unit-level social media pages that trash commanders, demoralize troops, and undermine unit cohesion must not be.
What do you think demoralizes troops more? Anonymous commenting or fighting endless and directionless wars for Israel?
Yeah.
Just asking.
Sixth, we must train and we must maintain. Any moment
They
that we are
rhyme.
not training on our mission or maintaining our equipment is a moment we are less prepared for preventing or winning the next war.
Dude literally read like Seven Habits of Highly Effective People and thought, I'm gonna rip this off and say it in front of the military, and I'll get them back for making fun of my tattoos. This is like Israel couldn't have picked a better guy to deliver the message of, dude, we need higher quality human sacrifices. This guy hates these people. You can tell he's really eager to stick the knife in. I mean, you have to hate your military to send them to die in these kind of wars. The Rumsfeld was the same way. You could tell he clearly hated the grunts who were being sent to kick indoors and getting their legs blown off and shit. Nobody is fooled by his like hair gel flavored patriotism. Then he goes back into the reverse psychology shit.
See great Americans, leaders who have given decades to our great republic at great sacrifice to yourselves and to your families. But if the words I'm speaking today are making your heart sink, then you should do the honorable thing and resign. We would thank you for your support.
Don't like being called a beardo or having your superficial individual expression mocked. And then he changes the definition of war for good measure because, when you have absolute power, why not wield it into the ground? It's not like the country's going to be around for too much longer anyway.
Who say never again to nation building and nebulous end states. This clear-eyed view, all the way in the White House, combined with President Trump's military buildup, fosters us for future victories if, and we will, and when we embrace the War Department. And we must. We are preparing every day. We have to be prepared for war, not for defense. We're training warriors, not defenders. We fight wars to win, not to defend. Defense is something you do all the time. It's inherently reactionary and can lead to overuse, overreach, and mission creep. War is something you do sparingly, on our own terms, and with clear aims. We fight to win.
Dude seriously thinks winning wars is a matter of vocabulary. I mean, this is some next level magical thinking.
We also don't fight with stupid rules of engagement. We untie
Human rights? What are those?
intimidate, demoralize, hunt, and kill the enemies of our country. No more politically correct and overbearing rules of engagement. Just common sense, maximum lethality, and authority for warfighters. Well, today is another Liberation Day. The liberation of America's warriors, in name, in deed, and in authorities. You kill people and break things for a living. You are not politically correct and don't necessarily belong always in polite society. We are not an army of one. We are a joint force of millions of selfless Americans. We are warriors. We are purpose-built, not for fair weather, blue skies or calm seas. We were built to load up in the back of helicopters, 5 tons, or Zodiacs in the dead of night, in fair weather or foul.
So it's literally a pep rally after he says the next war will be endless and boundaryless. So he's getting people psyched up to jump into oblivion. And there's no comment on how this boundaryless, endless war jibes with his poo-pooing of nebulous end states and nation building, which he's right to shit on. I mean, I think anybody sane who has a memory that goes back further than 5 minutes can realize how disastrous that's going to be. But yeah, he literally changes definitions of all these words, and it's like this. Sorry, you can't win words by bullshitting. America's only cultural export might be bullshit at this point, but that doesn't mean that other countries want it. We have to force it on them. I guess that's where the military comes in. The magic of words, Hegseth believes quite strongly in it, let's say, and thinks that he can just get up there and say, "Hey, you guys are a bunch of fat, poorly groomed losers. Win my wars for me. Go make daddy proud." And that they'll just do it because what are they gonna do? Get up and leave? Trump even like hammers that home further as if it needed ha further hammering.
And if you want to do anything you want, you can do anything you want. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank, there goes your future.
And
I mean, you could argue that he's just trying to, establish rapport with the audience there or whatever. But the great diversions that he makes into both the usual Trump self-aggrandizement and just like making a fool of himself, kind of. I mean, he talks about being able to climb stairs as if this is like a source of great pride for him that he knows how to climb stairs without falling on his face. Like,
I'm very careful, when I walk downstairs like I'm on stairs, like these stairs. I walk very slowly. Nobody has to set a record. Just try not to fall, because it doesn't work out well. A few of our presidents have fallen and it became a part of their legacy. We don't want that. You walk nice and easy. You don't have to set any record. Be cool. Be cool when you walk down, but don't bop down the
he
stairs.
just keeps
So
going.
one thing with Obama, I had zero respect for him as a president, but he would bop down those stairs. I've never seen da-da, 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 bop, bop, bop. He'd go down the stairs, wouldn't hold on. I said, it's great. I don't want to do it. I guess I could do it. But eventually, bad things are going to happen. And it only takes once. But he did a lousy job as president. A year ago, we were a dead country. We were dead. This country was going to hell. We were dead in every.
I mean, the fact that he went on for like the better part of 2 minutes talking about how he can climb downstairs and how, it's not so easy, but he can do it. And right after Hegseth just finished going on at great length about the importance of being able to do PT, physical training, and we have Trump like talking about how proud he is of being able to go downstairs. That's not an accident, that juxtaposition, nor is this, oh yeah, a year ago we were a dead country and now everybody's saying we're awesome. Yeah, everybody's saying that to your face, dude. I mean,
Just think of it. We were a dead country. I was with the King of Saudi Arabia, a great guy, with the Emir of Qatar. I was with the great leadership of UAE. I was over there. We brought back $2 trillion and more. They ordered 200 planes, Boeings. They ordered so much, and they were great. But they all said essentially the same thing. They said, 1 year ago, you were a dead country, and now you're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're the hottest country in the world right now.
like, okay, you were told here by a bunch of Arab potentates that you're the hottest country in the world, and you believe it? I mean, maybe you're dumber than the guys you just jacked that $2 trillion from. And everybody in the audience knows this. I mean, the whole like, oh yeah, our country is hotter than it's ever been, while people are turning their pockets inside out trying to find money for a loaf of bread, whatever. I mean, the country is just as dead as it was a year ago. It's just that now I think maybe slightly more focused on eradicating the population of Gaza, maybe slightly less focused on imposing DEI down all the throats of the unwilling. Of course, if it were just limited to that joke of a pep talk or pep rally or whatever you would call that sort of thing, um, I wouldn't really have cause to make this video. I mean, maybe Hegseth woke up on the wrong side of the bed that day, or Trump didn't pull the wedgie all the way out of his ass or something. And they just felt like taking out their own humiliation, which has been delivered unto them by the great state of Israel, uh, to a broader audience. So it's obviously not just Trump and Hegseth who are embarrassing the rank and file or the leaders of our military. Tucker Carlson talks here about how during the little mini Iran war that Israel started a couple months ago, um, Mossad agents were apparently running around the Pentagon barking orders at people, and how everybody just put up with it because don't want to make waves.
Anyone who says anything about it is attacked. Oh, you're an anti-Semite. There's nothing to do with anti-Semitism. That's insulting. Why would we ever put up with that? Why would we put up with the attack on the USS Liberty that everyone's so afraid to talk about? Clearly targeted on purpose by a country we're supporting, Israel. And it's somehow shameful to say that? Why? Why is it shameful to say that? Who knows why it's shameful to say that, but it shouldn't be. And until we have some self-respect, not anger or hate, but just dignity, it will continue. In June, for example, during the 12-day war, such as it was with Iran, the US and Israel versus Iran, bombing on all sides, during that short conflict, IDF officers in the Pentagon, there are a bunch of Israeli Defense Force officers in the Pentagon that week. And during that week, ask anyone who works at the Pentagon, they enraged American Pentagon staff by just barging into meetings, giving orders, making demands, and nobody did anything about it. How can a foreign military officer barge into military headquarters, even if invited, but barge into a meeting and start demanding, we want this, we want that, you need to get on this? Huh? The more you allow that kind of deeply unhealthy behavior, the more you're going to get. And that's exactly what has happened. Because of the weakness of our leaders, we have incited predators in a foreign country to take advantage of us.
Seems to be part of a pattern. He'd mentioned Qatar in there. He literally had look at this Israeli PM Netanyahu apologizes to Qatar over Doha attack when basically the U.S. guaranteed that Qatar's security because it has a giant military base in Qatar, and then Israel went and bombed them anyway, and the U.S. was like, "Oh, I didn't know anything about that. It's never gonna happen again." And yeah, so Netanyahu just apologized for murdering a civilian during the unprecedented and unprovoked Israeli attack on Hamas leaders. That was what it was. It was a meeting of Hamas leaders for a negotiation, which basically anybody should know by now not to attend any U.S.-backed negotiation. I mean, we've had this happen with Iran. We've had it happen with Hamas. Had it happened here. Um, it's never going to end well. They're just going to trick you. And at this point, the burden of knowing that is starting to fall on the victims, which is not a nice place to be. But it's just like at this point, you cannot trust the United States because you're basically trusting Israel. There is no daylight between U.S. and Israeli government policy at this point. So, I mean, if anything, U.S. media are more pro-Israeli than the Israeli media, and the U.S. government is right there with them. So it's just a joint call from Trump and Netanyahu. Like Trump is standing there with Bibi, and he's like, let's make an apology phone call." And Bibi, of course, is because he's going to be targeted for he knows he's just getting the overflow humiliation that he's already put onto Trump. So they're so sorry for violating Qatari sovereignty. That's I'm sure that sorrow is really sincere. It's like you could just imagine them sitting together, and he's like, "Okay, now you're gonna say you're sorry, and you're gonna say you'll never do it again." And that's like literally what happened. Apology, a significant step. I mean, where do you go from here? You're not a country anymore. You're not even a paper tiger like he called Russia. You're like a paper beard. Like it's, yeah. I want to assure you that when Israel murdered one of your citizens with no cause, they were targeting Hamas, who you had given diplomatic harbor to, not Qataris. Okay, so it's not your sovereignty that we were targeting. We were targeting the guy who was supposed to be covered by your sovereignty. We have this is like reading like The Onion. I also want to assure you that Israel has no plan to violate your sovereignty again in the future. I have made that commitment to the president because we know he means it when he makes a commitment. Like all those ceasefire agreements with Hamas, yeah, the ones that Israel violated every single time. I mean, and all those like treaties that it signed and all that whole, I don't know, maybe not having nuclear weapons. I mean, this that anybody would trust this is bizarre at this point. Yeah, flagrant violation is putting it lightly. And I'm sure he has really deep regrets, really deep regrets. I guess it's just that they can't do anything because what are they going to do? Bomb the US back? Bomb Israel? I mean, they could bomb Israel if they had some balls, but Qatar is not known for ball having, let's say. And that's the thing with ritual humiliation is that it doesn't just stop with the person who's being ritually humiliated. It echoes throughout society. Like if you've been humiliated in such a spectacular way, you're going to go home and maybe yell at your spouse or like be rude to your child or your parent or kick your dog or whatever because you're in a shitty mood and you have a reason to be because you've just had your integrity compromised. And in it, probably in a group setting that you felt uncomfortable asserting your dominance, perhaps because you didn't have dominance or you didn't feel you did or you didn't feel it was the right place or you didn't want to make waves. It's this not wanting to make waves that's most important here because it creates a degree of complicity in your own oppression. You don't want to speak up because you're afraid of what everybody else will think, and that's the spiral of silence, which I talked about in my last video, which I've talked about many times. If you're not familiar with the concept, Elizabeth Dole Newman, German social scientist, wrote an excellent book that explains how this is used and to what effect. And basically, you're afraid of saying something because you don't want your neighbors to believe that you're somehow stepping outside the group norms. And then they, who secretly believe the same thing as you, see your silence as a cue not to express themselves, and it winds the acceptable limits of discourse ever tighter, and eventually you have no one willing to deviate from the norm because they're afraid what will happen to them if they do. This was one of the purposes that was served by Charlie Kirk getting assassinated. Candace Owens, once again, I know a lot of you don't like Candace Owens, but she's been doing some good work on this subject, had came out with like actual evidence that he had indeed forsaken his lovely Israeli donors and was not interested in propping up the cause of the genocide anymore because they were bullying him. And there's a lot of other people who are getting money from Israel who don't want to be bullied anymore. And they had to be kept in line somehow. And that's how Israel does it. Kill them. They don't really have a wide range of like creative responses to problem solving. Their two go-tos are silence and murder. And so you see all these Israeli scumbags calling for repression of information, and then you see a lot of mysterious deaths or lone gunmen or random shooters or whatever. Um, and they know how obvious they're being. They're just rubbing it in our faces because that's part of the humiliation ritual. It's not that they think that we're stupid or they think or that they are stupid. They just want to see our faces rubbed in it because that'll remind us who's boss, apparently. I mean, that's how they think, but they think nothing of doing this right in front of everyone and then saying that if you claim that they control the media, that's anti-Semitic.
The next thing I will do, we will do, is to put restriction on the social media in a way that not allowed to make brutal propaganda in the social media.
The most brutal propaganda is coming from IDF soldiers themselves, Nosferatu. Surely you know that.
Because this is a worldwide problem
Hmm.
and it should be initiated by the United States of America, the place where
When he says jump, you say how high, and that's unfortunately filtered down to the entire ranks of the U.S. military. Pete Hegseth just made very, very clear that.
all the big firms is settled. Facebook and X and all the rest. This is a major problem for democracy all over the globe. And we need to treat it seriously. We can do it.
This scumbag is Yair Golan. He's an Israeli politician who's clearly got the ear of some powerful people. I mean, the fact that they still walk around pretending that Facebook and X aren't completely colonized already, by pro-genocide entities, whether or not they're actually Israeli or Jewish or anything like that, is kind of beside the point when they're getting $7,000 per post. Although, no, actually, it's not because the ritual humiliation is of a very different kind when they're being paid $7,000 to post things they don't believe in versus when they're, well, if they actually believe the things, they wouldn't need the $7,000 now, would they? I'm not exaggerating there either. They're literally getting $7,000 per social media post, some of them, 14 to 18 of them, according to this article. People read this and they get justifiably outraged because it's like, wait a second. So that like Zio fascist slop that's been polluting my Twitter feed, polluting my TikTok feed, polluting my whatever platform you use feed is being sponsored that much per post? What the fuck? What am I doing wrong with my life? And then you recognize that, like, okay, well, to do that, you would have to not only excuse genocide and promote genocide, but do that repeatedly. Because when you're selling your soul, it's never a one-off deal. It's like a constant thing. I mean, Renfield's got to be constantly finding victims for Dracula here, and these people are having to constantly make $7,000 posts which I don't know about you, but I would set the value of my soul quite a bit higher than $7,000, I think. And I'm wondering how quickly it's going to be before these people realize they made a mistake. But at any rate, there's supposedly 14 to 18 of them that I don't know if that's the same ones that were at this recent conference, which I'll show you in a second. Oh, this, yeah, he alluded to them at this meeting, but it's not clear if they're the same ones. Payment for influencers and production. I mean, that's a lot of money to just bullshit. And so you wonder if, yeah, it's like people in the IDF that are doing this, and it's completely tied in with their Hezbollah program and everything. So the idea that this is just some private group that's sponsoring people, and they have a right to free speech as much as they've registered with the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which a lot of them don't do. Actually, APAC doesn't do that, but these guys did, I guess, because they realized they can get away with whatever. And when they let stuff like this get out, there must be much worse things going on that they can't put down in print. So it's like, I mean, who do you know who's suddenly become a fountain of pro-Israel content these days that has got an awfully new looking car in their garage? I would take tread carefully with such people because God knows what else they're capable of. And each stage of ritual humiliation has branches that come off it. So one person who's been ritually humiliated successfully can then go on to uh, be a force in the ritual humiliation of anyone else who watched their content or who listens to them speak or who unwittingly interacts with them on social media because they see the amount of followers they're getting or the amount of money they're getting in the case of these Israeli influencers and think, gee, there must be something I'm doing wrong. Even if that thought never rises to a conscious level, there still is that sort of echo of the original insult to decency, which is, I mean, when you see some of the videos these people are putting out, it really, for one thing, it's difficult to imagine who the target audience is. I'll show you what I'm talking about. You've probably already seen this video, but if you haven't, I'm sorry if you happen to be eating or doing anything else that you're going to get nauseated with, but you've seen this ridiculous shit.
Imagine supporting people who start wars just to lose the wars so they can cry about it and then try it all again.
You must see anti-Semites are literally obsessed with Jews. Now walk with me. While you must see anti-Semites are stacking eviction notices, Jews are out here stacking up businesses.
Jews control all the industries. Maybe if you spent more time taking notes from successful people, you wouldn't have to spend your nights and weekends spreading hate from your anonymous account with an anime profile picture.
Do you work as hard as Jews? Do you network like Jews? No, because you're too busy cheering on a group of musty terrorists who smell like dirty earring backs. And if we're gonna keep it real, you're really mad because your income is giving side hustle.
Period.
How you gonna hate from outside, Shabbat? You can't even get in.
What's the target audience of this? You have to ask, because nobody is going to have their minds changed by this. Nobody is going to like suddenly be hypnotized by their shaky command of Generation Z slang and sassy black gay bestie signaling. Clearly, this is the echoes of ritual humiliation here because these people were just told in front of an audience of their peers, if not these two specifically, then people like them. And I mean, they've been to Israel, they've gotten the whole talk. This kid here, Xavier, whatever his name is, went to Israel after October 7th and was suddenly wowed by the amount of money that it was apparently spent to make him have a good time at, I'm sure, what were the hottest gay clubs in Tel Aviv. And he came back with a new understanding of the Judeo-Christian whatever, and that's the understanding he's showing off here. My point is that this is like not clearly designed for any audience at all, unless the two of them are just scamming the Israeli lobby, in which case, more power to you guys, but I don't think that's it. I think they're just scumbags. So I apologize for inflicting secondhand ritual humiliation, but this is really, as every video I play on this channel is, a part of studying the propaganda in order to not be enslaved by the propaganda. So unfortunately, we have to get our hands a little dirty, and that was some filthy dirt there. I don't know whether those two specifically were at this meeting, but Benjamin Netanyahu, and again another video you may have seen recently. Which a lot of people have played or posted on their social media, but which nobody really got to the main point of it, which is that he's just invited a bunch of like friends of Charlie Kirk to basically hear about how they can be Charlie better than Charlie was in terms of being a supporter of Israel. I mean, because that was where he was flagging in his last weeks, I guess. I mean, according to Candace Owens, at least. Um, Basically how they can keep the Christian Zionists on their side. That's what she's asking about in this picture. I think she's the one who's walking with the Frappuccino, but I seriously can't recognize faces. So if anyone can confirm that, I would appreciate it. Maybe it's that one in the corner. I don't know. He makes them sit there and listen to him like crack a dumb joke that's not even a joke, and then tells them like hints at using drones to kill Charlie Kirk. And they just sit there and take it because that's all they can do. Now, this is some next level psychological manipulation here. So she asked a question about what can we do to keep the Zionists on the reservation, basically, after Charlie Kirk, because she claims to have been mentored by Charlie Kirk.
Closer. He said, talked about the woke right. And he said, I call it the woke right.
Did you catch that unfunny non-joke? Notice how the laughter was delayed and reluctant. These people realize that he has the ability to have them killed at any point, and he's going to make that clear in a few seconds. But they realized, I better laugh because he's got cameras everywhere, and if he sees film later that I'm not laughing, I don't know what he's going to do to me. We saw what happened to Charlie, and all he did was write a sternly worded letter. Not even a sternly worded letter, a rather obsequious letter. We'll get to that in a second, but
The woke right. Because these people, they're not any different from the woke left. I mean, they're insane. But they're actually meeting with some of the things. And what we have to do is we have to secure that part of the base of our support in the United States. That is being challenged systematically. A lot of this is done with money. Money of NGOs, vast. Money of governments, faster. Okay? We have to fight.
everyone in the audience knows he's talking about himself, but none of them can say it. So,
How do we fight back? Our influences. I think you should also talk to them if you have a chance. To that community, they're very important. And secondly, we're going to have to use the tools of battle. The weapons change over time. You can't fight today with swords. That doesn't work very well. Okay? And you can't fight with cavalry. That doesn't work very well. And you have these new things, like drones, things like that. I won't get into that. But we have to fight with the weapons that apply to the battlefields in which we're engaged.
so then why are you talking about drones? This is a group of influencers who are supposedly waging information warfare on your behalf. Why are you talking about drones and stuff like that and then saying, oh, I can't talk about that? Well, obviously he's talking about drones and stuff like that because that's how they got Mr. Kirk there. This tweet here suggests that he was assassinated using remote weaponry taken directly from the battlefield. The Elbit Systems is a well-known Israeli weapons contractor, and use this particular type of technology to fire this difficult to land shot, not from the front as we were all told, but from the back. If there's been extensive analysis of like sound and where the entry and exit wounds were and everything, and people who know about this sort of thing can have basically concluded that there's no way it could have come from the front. And it's looking like it was if not a drone itself. People were talking about as if it was a drone at first. That's what he's talking about there. And while the people in that audience might not necessarily know that, they have heard the chatter about there being drones in the air during the Charlie thing, and that was possibility that there might have been some sort of sophisticated munitions at work there, and the rumors are what carry that. And it's all he needs to do is say drones. Oh, but I can't talk about that. So why are you talking about it then? Why are you talking about weapons, like military weapons, to a group of kids who are gonna tweet for you online? It makes no sense unless you see it as a tool of intimidation and or humiliation, which is what it is. And because you see what Charlie Kirk wrote to Netanyahu, it says, one of my greatest joys is advocating for Israel and forming alliances with Jews in the fight to protect Judeo-Christian civilization. Really, which part is Judeo and which part is Christian? Asking for a friend. He points out that Israel is losing support down here, and sometimes it feels like I'm defending in Israel more in public more than your own government. What? You're telling Bibi what to do? I wouldn't do that. And he lists a bunch of stuff that people at his events say about Israel, such as defending Israel is not in our U.S. national interest. Israel and Jews are responsible for 9/11. Israel and the Jews are running U.S. foreign policy. People are saying that Israel is an apartheid state. Why does Israel conduct ethnic cleansing? Etc., etc. Basic questions that you would expect people to ask because they have eyes and ears and are able to read the news and see what's going on. And so he's complaining that it's hard to defend Israel these days because like they suck at, not being monsters, etc., etc. And he tries to make excuses for them. He says, I know Israel goes to great lengths by dropping flyers and even calling civilians to clear out of areas about to be bombed. Hey, we're going to bomb your house and flatten your garden and remove any hope that you and your children have for a stable life going forward. Can you like clear out in 10 minutes? Because the bombs are coming and, we don't want to make them late. Oh, what? You're telling me to go fuck myself? Well, fine. We're gonna kill your children and we're gonna kill your puppies and we're gonna make sure that nothing ever grows in your land ever again. Goodbye. That's how war is conducted humanely. Listen to Israel. They post maps saying which areas. If somebody called you up and said, we're about to bomb your house, what the fuck would you do? I mean, would you just say, thank you, sir? May I have another? This is again, it's just every drop in the bucket of this ritual humiliation thing echoes again and again and again. So they'll humiliate one entity and that entity will turn around and inflict it on another, and it just keeps going and going and going. And this is how they've sort of lowered the human vibration to this level where we're just backbiting and like shitting on each other and doing what Israel tells us to do, and in general just doing all the wrong shit. Uh, he gives a bunch of quote unquote unsolicited recommendations. You need a rapid response media team. You strongly recommend putting together a team of pro-Israel experts who can fact check misinformation in real time, who can lie faster than the opponents, basically. This and the funny part is that it does seem that Ben Netanyahu is actually putting these into effect. I mean, he's already got Brad Parscale out to sort of train AI to be less anti-Israel, which it's hard to get AI to be less anti-Israel than it is now. AI will defend Israel until the day you can reason it out of it. I mean, there are some roots around its inbuilt programming, but they've done a pretty good job of making it an apologist for all the war crimes. You need something like an Israel Truth Network, which can include social media channels and a one-stop source of information website. How about Wikipedia? Oh, what? Oh no, they say Wikipedia is anti-Semitic now because it doesn't let you use the ADL for articles about the Israel-Palestine conflict. Oh, I see. So because it bans one organization from one topic area, it must hate the Jews. They can't help themselves. They literally can't help themselves. I mean, this is a psychosis. I would feel bad for them if my tax dollars weren't going towards funding their genocide and then were if they were not also committing that genocide. One could almost see a situation in which one could feel bad for them. But ITN could potentially be a news aggregation site for all news pertaining to Israel and Judeo-Christian efforts to preserve Western civilization. I wonder if he was laughing when he was writing this because it's hard to like imagine anyone with a straight face putting out something like this. But I mean, then he's just having the hostages go on a speaking tour, even though like most of the hostages, the ones that came out and weren't going along with the narrative, were like institutionalized and forcibly medicated. It's true. They wanted to make sure the narrative was very tightly kept, but the fact is that in Netanyahu's eyes, this was like a snot-nosed kid telling the master what to do, and we can't have that. So between that and him saying, "No, I'm not supporting Israel vocally anymore. You guys can carry out your genocide in peace." Well, we can see why he decided this guy had gotten too big for his britches, because I mean, the if he's got the fealty of the entire US government who will stand up and clap every time he cuts a fart when he gets up in front of Congress and starts going on about how Iran is the real enemy and they're going to have a nuclear weapon in 5 minutes and we all need to duck and cover and or hand over all of our resources to Israel, a country which already has a budget surplus and free healthcare and free university and loves to just do a tap dance on the souls of its neighbors. Um, like where does this kid get off? Is what I would imagine would be going through Netanyahu's head. So, yeah, sure, they do need a paradigm shift in how they present themselves to the world, starting with like not committing genocide anymore. But if you can't do that, well, here are some suggestions. And yeah, so that's the combination of the two things, I think, is why Charlie caught a bullet in the neck. Of course, the conservative college students aren't the only ones being gaslighted in this gaslit, I guess would be the word, in this sort of circle of ritual humiliation. There's also the average progressive college student who is apparently being forced by their school to sit through like ridiculous brainwashing propaganda. Yeah, here we go. Northwestern University students barred from enrolling in class after refusing anti-Semitism training. Ooh. Dozens of students were unable to enroll in the classes they paid for and probably took out ruinously termed student loans for because they didn't sit through the anti-Semitism training that basically told them there was no such thing as Palestine. Israel just got the land from the British, and there was no, a land without a people for a people without a land. If you believe that one, I've got a bridge to sell you. They called the training offensive and unscholarly. That's putting it lightly. Yeah, it's an insult to their intelligence. And they realize this. If college students can realize this and say something about it, maybe there's hope for humanity. But the point is that most of the students didn't stand up and say something about this. So they've got their lock on that generation. They're trying to put their lock on that generation. That's what the whole TikTok accusation was about. And Larry Oracle. Larry Ellison from Oracle, the number one private funder of the Israeli Defense Forces, recently purchased TikTok's U.S. operations. After, I mean, they basically had control of their U.S. operations before that. They had their data because there was all this fuss over the Chinese having access to the data and the algorithm and all that, which was, of course, a distraction from letting Israel have a hold over it. But apparently, TikTok users are already noticing that their videos are being deleted without warning, and that people are no longer able to carry on discussions with the same freedom they used to be able to. Which, I mean, I don't use TikTok, so I can't really say, but it doesn't surprise me at all. The first thing they did when after taking over was they banned the juice box emoji. Apparently the sentence Democrats and Republicans are both controlled by Israel through AIPAC, do some research, was flagged for violating their community guidelines. Now, again, I've never used TikTok, so I don't know how easy it was to say things like that before, but is anybody surprised? Larry Ellison being in charge? And of course, this is the sense of learned helplessness that is supposed to ensue from having every like avenue for truth blocked, except for the slight glimmer from one. They were already accused, apparently, of pushing pro-Palestinian content after Jonathan Greenblatt was caught on a leaked phone call bitching about it to lawmakers. And TikTok pointed out that it was not actually them pushing it. It was the fact that most of their users were not having this genocide shit. And since Larry Ellison had to come in and take over to prevent that sort of sentiment from continuing to build, because I mean, well, one thing you can say for kids is that they have less of a filter concerning like the spiral of silence concerning Israel right now, and in the United States at least, and so it's an interesting place to be at in terms of like being able to observe this kind of propaganda like full force being basically lie hosed out to the masses because there is no target audience here. There is no one who hasn't made their mind up on this subject. There might be some people whose mind could be changed in the details, but at this point, unless you really haven't been paying attention at all, you've kind of decided where you stand on this issue. It's hard not to when you're seeing like more than 500,000 people get genocided in broad daylight, and people making videos about it and laughing.
TikTok, number one. I swear.
And he even talks about how TikTok is the most important target for them after that little foray into drone technology there.
Fight with weapons that apply to the battlefield in which we engage. And the most important ones are social media. And the most important purchase that is going on right now is class TikTok. TikTok, number one. And I hope it goes.
Notice how he calls them class in sort of like a condescending fashion. I mean, just again, it's just a little throwaway, but it's part of a pattern.
Because it can be consequential. And the other one, what's the other one? That's most important. X. X. That's very good. And, so we have to talk to Elon. He's not an enemy. He's a friend. We should talk to him. Now, if we can get those two things, we get a lot. And I could go on other things, but that's not the point right now.
That little remark about Elon Musk caused Elon Musk to like do damage control and come out and say, "Oh, the ADL is a hate group because it hates Christians." Oh, it hates Christians. Is that who it hates? No, the ADL hates humans. The ADL is an anti-human organization. It was founded to defend a murderer, rapist, and pedophile who just happened to get caught after murdering, raping, and yeah, murdering and raping is enough. His 13-year-old employee in Georgia in the maybe 100 years ago about that. And yeah, I mean, if you don't know the Leo Frank story, it's out there. I'm not gonna bother going through it again, but basically the ADL was founded to defend this creature, and they've been trying to exonerate him ever since. And so this is the organization, and because they had a posting on their hate list, which, oh, their hate list has been taken down now because of all the inaccurate stuff that was on there. And oh, isn't Elon Musk a hero for the people? Well, no, he's a limited hangout uh, pressure release valve for the people because they want to any people want to have a winner, and Elon Musk has more money than God, so he's got to be a winner even though he had to kiss the ring at Auschwitz like every other winner who isn't also part of the winning team. And so he had to be given a win there, and that hate list that they have was turning out to be, I guess, more of a liability than a good resource. And so, oh look, the mighty Elon has toppled the great predator, the ADL, from its perches atop our information superhighway. And so yeah, they had to sacrifice that because Elon needed to save face. But you can see here that he openly talks about them controlling TikTok and needing to control Twitter. But Twitter's already controlled. When was the last time you looked at your feed and didn't see a whole bunch of like Zionist scumbags that you would never follow posting about how great it is to kill people? I mean, or musty earring backs, whatever the fuck these kids are talking about these days. And of course, Bibi isn't just out there to humiliate the college students or to humiliate the young conservative influencer crowd. He's here to humiliate the whole country, and he's not shy about it.
President Trump does what he does because he decides what's in America's best interest. And I've said this often, I don't decide.
He can't help himself.
President Trump.
He's smirking.
He is the most independent leader, an amazing leader that I've seen in all my years, and I think many people
Can't help
see
himself.
that. So the idea that in any ways that I boast that I control him, that's ridiculous. It's a lie. And I know, not only did I not say it, I don't think it. I think America's blessed with a very strong and independent leader. President Trump.
I mean, it's a wonder that he can't keep a straight face. He can't keep a straight face, and he's like not actually bursting out laughing. But yeah, this poster found he's speaking in Hebrew, but the translation is America is something that you can move easily. Because the fact is that once BB shows up on your doorstep, like he went back to the White House again this week, and once he shows up, there's going to be a war in a week or two. They're already sending all their resources to the Middle East, so there's going to be a war, and it's probably going to be Iran again, and I mean, they're gonna or either that or they're gonna say, oh well, Hamas violated the ceasefire that Israel never honored in the first place. I mean, Israel is still bombing Palestine even though they supposedly agreed to the ceasefire agreement. And it's just like, I mean, at some point you have to actually stand up to these bullies and say, no, I'm not having this anymore. Like it's all part of a larger like attempt to instill learned helplessness because you get people just saying the quiet part out loud. I mean, more than ever, you're hearing people saying the quiet part out loud, like this motherfucker, Yair, I think it's Yair Golan, Israeli politician.
The next thing I will do, we will do, is to put restriction on the social media in a way that not allowed to make brutal propaganda in the social media. Because this is a worldwide problem and it should be initiated by the United States of America, the place where all the big firms is settled. Facebook and X and all the rest. This is a major problem for democracy all over the globe. And we need to treat it seriously. We can do it.
I mean, what do you say to that? It's like grunt, grunt, me want your mind. No, no, please, not my mind, anything but that. No, me want you anti-Semite. And then behind them, there's like three guys with guns pointed to his head, and he has to cut his own head open, scoop out the brain, and hand it to this Nosferatu-looking motherfucker. And that's kind of the thing. They need you to be complicit in your own oppression, and that is whether that's buying into their narrative, whether that's supporting these conservative groups that have very, very, very thin veil of that's preventing them from registering for the Foreign Agents Registration Act, this is part of the ritual humiliation thing because they just have it right out there in the open. But if you quote his own words, then you are labeled an anti-Semite and deplatformed, debanked, whatever, removed from your social group, your job threatened, hanging in the balance, whatever the case may be. And it's the problem is that because this has become the societal norm, the people who do speak up against it are marginalized and not allowed to enroll in classes or not hired or whatever the case may be for their particular social niche. But unless everybody actually speaks up and does it, if not even everybody, if I believe the agreed upon number for people who study this sort of thing is like 3%, if 3% of people actually stood up for themselves, stood up for humanity, and told these people to fuck off back where they came from, which is not Israel, by the way, they didn't come from there. Um, um, it would be a game changer. And unfortunately, people have been so beaten down and so diverted from like the basic truth of the world that they live in that the best that a lot of people can do is nibble around the edges or complain. I mean, and I'm a part of as much a part of the problem as anyone. I mean, all I can do is right now, or at least all I feel I can do is sort of share my perspective on the problem with the hope that it gets more people to take action against the problem or find their way outside of the problem where they too can have a sort of broader or more accurately informed perspective, whatever the case may be. But yeah, this is not good that they're this far into basically it's like the archetypal James Bond movie where they've got him tied up and the supervillain is explaining the whole way that he's going to destroy the world and he's so confident because James Bond will never ever be able to get out of the trap and kill him and save the world. Yeah, so they're really cocky and they're really arrogant and their faces are really punchable and it's just like how long do we have to sit here and take this? I mean, at this point, it's literally infecting our sense of self. And on a subconscious level, you see these people getting $7,000 per social media post. And while you might be perfectly, I mean, you can look yourself in the eye at night before you go to sleep, knowing that you have not sold your soul for $7,000. And why am I living in a society that rewards people for this kind of slop with $7,000 per social media post? And it makes you doubt yourself um, because you're wondering why do I live in a society that doesn't value like you know meaningful contributions, but that has been so distorted that it values like absolute dog shit. And why are these people like I mean, the whole concept of aesthetic terrorism is this is part of the whole concept of aesthetic terrorism, where basically we're confronted with a basically a fire hose of really just nauseating, unpleasant, noxious imagery that we instinctively recoil to and told again and again, this is beautiful. If you don't think this is beautiful, there's something wrong with you. If you don't think this is beautiful, you're filled with hate or you're a bigot or whatever. And your aesthetic sensibilities are as much a part of you as your reflex to recoil if you see a snarling dog or a poisonous snake or whatever. The fact that they try to get in between you and that instinct and mold your likes and dislikes from birth basically is really insidious because it's part of just them trying to alienate you from yourself. The best subject, if you want an unquestioning subject who does whatever the ruler tells them to do, is one who has no sense of self whatsoever and who that therefore abdicates the responsibility for everything in their life to the state. Once you're an adult, you can't really change what you find attractive. This is why there are so many closeted, self-hating homosexuals in both political parties because I mean, they like what they like, and they've been conditioned not to, and all the conditioning in the world isn't going to change that. So it's an unfortunate state to be in, Lindsey Graham, and so the fact that these like marginal people are being thrown into the mainstream and given like heaps of admiration. You get people like that creep Dylan Mulvaney, who was the reason why Bud Light took such a dive financially. This goes back to the ritual humiliation aspect in terms of the corporation was basically told to eat that, and then all of their consumers were told to eat that. They didn't eat that, and then the stock value tanked. So they're constantly testing the limits of what they can get away with. And in terms of this sort of political humiliation and in terms of this cultural humiliation, the idea is just to completely demoralize society to the point where it's so easy to control because there's no backbone left in terms of being able to resist the orders to just do something absurd or stupid or evil because you don't know which end is up anymore and you don't know what's good and what would be the opposite of that or what even would be the point of doing something opposite that because you see it as being a hopeless choice. It's just as likely that you'll resist as that you'll just start to doubt yourself and think that you're defective for having this sort of moral mispolarization with, okay, so you don't find the genocide to be a great cause that deserves all your tax dollars, but everyone you know refuses to say anything else, and all you're reading on the news is how it's great because all those babies that they're killing are Hamas, and we have our 40 babies that were baked in an oven, even though nobody ever found evidence of any of that, and et cetera, et cetera. But we want to believe that the arc of the universe tends towards justice. That's like most kids are born or develop at least in an innate sense of what's fair and what's not fair. I mean, I know when I first read about the Israel-Palestine conflict when I think I was 7 years old, I was like, that doesn't sound right. But I mean, maybe I was exposed to unusually progressive reading material as a kid, but I think that it's basically like, kind of obvious. But that we don't like to see these complete like nothings, these morally bankrupt midwits in positions of power, and we start to wonder, is there something wrong with me? Like, am I the only one who doesn't get this? We want to think that people become famous because they're actually talented, or because at least they're working hard, or they're at least putting in the hours, working long, if not working hard. But in this case, they're not, because this is people who are installed specifically for the purpose of making opinion. And that is just fundamentally hostile to any sort of sense of fairness. Holding up cultural mediocrities as the pinnacle of human achievement also serves as a useful lightning rod in the case of actual revolution or rebellion, because the public, unaware of who's manipulating the events behind the scenes, will focus the majority of their rage on the public facing elements of the system. And then the people who are really pulling the levers of power can run and hide in their bunkers and leave the public to tear their patsies limb from limb. It's the same idea as if you have a dog that's being beaten with a stick, the dog will attack the stick when it really should be attacking the person beating it. So, if this ritual humiliation thing is really going on, which it is, and as part of, like I said, a broader aesthetic terrorism overarching campaign, let's say, for the hearts and minds of the people of the world, what is the end goal for these particular groups? Like, why would they be targeting the military in particular with this? Why would they be targeting the young people? I think that you can probably figure this out. I mean, these are the groups that are going to have the most influence going down the road. But let's get into that a little bit more. I mean, they need the military to go beyond its current comfort zone in terms of committing war crimes and atrocities against civilians. Look what the Pentagon is scaring them with now. This is a video called what's it called? Megacities, Urban Future, the Emerging Complexity. And this is from the Pentagon's Joint Special Operations University.
The urban environment will be the locus where drivers of instability will converge. It is the domain that by the year 2030, 60% of urban dwellers will be under the age of 18. The cities that grow the fastest will be the most challenged as resources become constrained and illicit networks fill the gap left by overextended and undercapitalized governments. The risk of natural disasters compounded by geography, climate changes, unregulated growth, and substandard infrastructure intersect to frustrate humanitarian relief. Growth will magnify the increasing separation between rich and poor. Religious and ethnic tensions will be a defining element in the social landscape. Stagnation will coexist with unprecedented development as impoverishment, slums, and shantytowns rapidly expand alongside modern high-rises, technological advances, and ever-increasing levels of prosperity. This is the world of our future. It is one we are not prepared to effectively operate within, and it is unavoidable. The advice of doctrine, from Sun Tzu to current field manuals, has provided two fundamental options. Avoid the cities, or establish a cordon to either wait out the adversary or drain the swamp of non-combatants and engage the remaining adversaries in high-intensity conflict within. Even our
Which do you think they're
counterinsurgency
going to
doctrine,
pick?
honed in the cities of Iraq and the mountains of Afghanistan, is inadequate to address the sheer scale of population in the future urban reality. From the streets of Aachen to the Citadel and Way, we have defeated adversaries who attempted to use urban terrain to their advantage. Urban conflict
Sit
is
down and
written
wait. You
deep
talk about
into
the Vietnam War,
Army
we didn't win
systems.
that shit.
But in tomorrow's conflict, these megacities are orders of magnitude greater in complexity, and our current options do not meet strategic ends. Our future
That's for sure.
operations must allow us to rapidly return the city to the people. They will be too large and complex to isolate or cordon in their entirety. Yet our soldiers will have to operate within these ecosystems with minimal disruption and flow. Our current
Anyway, you get the picture. I mean, you might think that they're talking about foreign cities or like cities in the Middle East or whatever, but it's clear from listening to those Hegseth and Trump talks that were given a few days ago that they're not talking about foreign cities, at least not only about foreign cities. They're talking about domestic cities and the enemy within. They're going to use the whole illegal immigrants thing as cover to kick down your door for saying unkind things about Miriam Adelson. I mean, they've already gotten to the point where people who speak out against capitalism are now considered to be dangerous extremists. So if you've ever said anything unkind about capitalism, which in this country, like, what does that even mean? Because capitalism is not capitalism. It's one of these words that they've taken the meaning of it and then sort of altered it to suit their preferred forms of plunder. So, like, the idea of a free market, I mean, you don't have a free market if you don't like what the kids are saying on TikTok, so you go and buy TikTok. That's not a free market. That's, I mean, I don't know what you would call that, but a free market ain't it. And same thing with Twitter. Elon Musk didn't like people were saying on Twitter, so he went and bought it. And that's like you can't just do that. That's become normal. Is like an affront to all that is like realistic and truthful in the world. Yeah, they have to get the population of the military even more alienated so that they'll go home and shoot up their own cities. I mean, if they did a test run with Washington, D.C., would these people, would the citizens of D.C. tolerate the military marching through their streets? They did. I don't think the military did any marching, but they were certainly, presence was known. And B, would the military do what they were told? And by all accounts, they did. And of course, Trump says, "Oh, it was great. Now people can go out and eat and have peaceful dinner in Washington without getting harassed by whoever was doing the harassing." But the point is, it was a test run, and now they're trying to do it in Chicago and New York. And well, I mean, get the fuck out of New York if you have half a brain. Get the fuck out of Chicago. What are you doing there? The thing is, they got to scare people. Otherwise, people don't want to commit war crimes. I mean, the human instinct is not to kill another human. You have to demonize the other human first. You have to dehumanize them. You have to convince the person that they're a threat. You have to basically say that worse things are going to happen if you don't do this one really bad thing. Another example, as if we need more, I know. why bullets with inscriptions keep turning up in shootings. So people had obviously started to ask questions about why are these bullets having like stuff written on them and stuff engraved on them too. Like, don't ordinary people not have the tools to like engrave stuff on bullets? I know I don't have anything that would be able to engrave anything on bullets. If like, and normally when you have one of these people in these mass casualty events, they write a manifesto. That's the time-honored way and true of getting your message out to the world. You just write you a manifesto or you plug it into ChatGPT and have them write you a manifesto. But like this thing with the ice attack where the shell casing said anti-ice, like you gotta be a fucking idiot. Because if they don't like ice, they would probably say something like fuck ice or ice bad or I don't know, like they would have a verb rather than anti-ice. Anti-ice is like I mean, I realize we're probably not talking about the brightest person in the world if they went to like shoot up a bunch of ICE agents and they ended up killing a bunch of illegal immigrants instead. Probably not the brightest bulb in the lamp, but of course you have to then assume that went down at all like they said it did, which spoiler alert, no. So they realized they had like a possible propaganda runaway success when that Luigi Mangione shot the United Healthcare CEO, which again, if that was actually him that did that, I don't know. I haven't looked too far into that one, but the fact that the words deny, defend, and depose were written on the shell casings was a big hit in the social media world because people identified with this guy because they all had their claims denied by various healthcare CEOs and they were in various healthcare companies and they were not too keen to defend the life of some scumbag who ran a company full of these losers. So they figured, why let a good thing go? We can just write shell casings on everything and fuck all this having to leak a manifesto on Discord or leave it with the guy's roommate or leave it on written on a napkin under the keyboard and then hope that we can like convince people that like that this there's too much assumption there. When you make an ass out of you, me, and the rest of the country, you got a problem. Yeah, of course the suspect in that one died. You can't have people asking, "Hey, where'd you get the tools to engrave shit on your bullets?" Even this guy, this fake expert they dredged up out of nowhere to gun owners have marked their casings in a variety of ways, going back hundreds of years. Sharpies are most commonly used to mark brass casings. I know my Sharpies are hundreds of years old. I don't know about yours. Like, what the fuck? And through carbine tipped or vibrating pens used for engraving metals. I have one of those lying around. I just let me get out my vibrating pen. What the fuck? No, this is not a thing. Don't require any specialized background to use. Okay, well, but why would you have one lying around in the first place? Most people don't like engrave metals in their spare time. It's a little silly. And hunters frequently inscribe inspirational messages onto their ammunition. Yeah, I know. Just go out and shoot a deer and write, "This bullet for you, deer." Ha ha ha. No, nobody does that. And I don't know where they found this guy, but probably on Wikipedia. It's gotten notoriety now in murders, yet literally nobody did this before. This was not a thing. And so, I mean, people are noticing these things, and you're supposed to just say, oh, no, no, that's just always been a thing, and you just didn't notice it until now. Of course, people are going to start asking questions. And they need that's the powerlessness aspect that causes the humiliation is that you know it's bullshit. Everyone you know knows it's bullshit in most cases, people are unwilling to like broach that subject to their neighbor because they're like, what if he's one of these TV watchers and I don't want to like be make waves? Nobody wants to make waves. The only problem is if you don't make waves, you get completely smothered in tyranny, and that's what we're dealing with right now. So, the smothering is occurring. Let's say the oxygen is leaving the room at a rapid pace, and so it might be time to like disturb your neighbors with your thoughts because chances are they share the same ones. So, what is the point of downgrading human consciousness to the level of humiliation? Like, why that as opposed to other similarly subdued states that also make people easy to control? Well, I don't know if you've ever read this book, Power versus Force by David Hawkins. And I mean, they did a very scientific sort of study of the states of human consciousness and how they all fit together and what the things associated with each. And so, like at the bottom, this is a chart of the different like you could freeze this and look at it. Humiliation is at the bottom. Shame, guilt, humiliation. Humiliation is the emotion associated with the lowest form of consciousness. So when you're humiliated, you really like there's not much further you can go from there. And that's why they're rubbing our faces in it. Because if they get you to the point where you're basically thinking about offing yourself or thinking like there's no point in continuing, there's no point in making anything out of my life in this country because this is such a shithole and there's nothing I can do about it and nobody else thinks this way. That nobody else thinks this way part is very important because if you have people around you who also think that way, then there's a possibility for rebuilding, for revolution, for whatever. But if you're just alone and you think that there's no possible way that anything can be done about this because it's always been this way and it always will be this way. They always want you to think that. That's like part of the whole thing. That's the secret is that humiliation is the rock bottom of consciousness levels. So like don't let them win, basically. If you see that you're being subjected to one of these humiliation rituals, don't let it. Just call bullshit. I mean, you know you're not going to be able to stand up in an audience of, although I bet if somebody had stood up in an audience in that audience of Pete Hegseth calling all the generals fat and poorly groomed and said, I don't appreciate being talked to that way, sir. I have a feeling there would be quite a few other ones that stood up with him. I don't think that a lot of them appreciated being talked that way by a guy who can't help but hit himself in his own crotch with a skateboard when he's trying to show off in front of his Fox News buddies. I mean, that shit's embarrassing, man. That shit is embarrassing. If you don't know how to do it, maybe wait till the cameras are off. I mean, I'm not going to say you shouldn't try new things. Maybe he wanted to give skateboarding a try, but my point is that the spiral of silence is such that, like, if you believe something and you think that you're alone in that belief, chances are you're not, and chances are the other people who believe that are closer than you think. And so we really need to get over this, like, keeping it to ourselves thing. Like, if you see something that's bullshit in the latest news event, I mean, call bullshit on it. Make a comment on it online, or better yet, talk to people you know in real life, because chances are other people have had that same thought, or at least have subconsciously realized that. I mean, it took me quite a while after witnessing the fallout from 9/11. I mean, I was in high school at the time, but I realized that there was that something didn't quite add up about all that, but it took speaking to people who knew more about the subject much later to actually put all the pieces together and realize exactly why that whole thing didn't smell right to me at all. It did, in retrospect, like definitely shape my formative opinions about politics. I mean, I was the kid that ran around during high school when it was election time and put up posters of Joseph Stalin saying, "He who counts votes decides nothing. He who counts the votes decides everything." I did that in 2004, but um, because learned helplessness, man, you learn helplessness pretty quick when you see some like Israeli controlled schmuck fly a plane into a building and people just suddenly fall in line to go to war with a totally different country after that. What the fuck? I mean, kids can see this shit, which is why it's so important for Israel to get control of TikTok and all that. So it's just like and you got to make touch with consciousness when you make contact with consciousness wherever it is. And a lot of people have like shields built up over the years around their consciousness to shield it from these cognitive dissonance inducing phenomena that are the modern news media. And so it's difficult to get in contact with them, which is, I mean, the internet is ultimately still a good resource, if less of a good resource than it was. But there's strength in numbers and there's strength in sanity, and we have both of those on our side. So, yes, good luck to you.